Welcome to Automate Your Agency. Every week, we bring you expert insights, practical tips, and success stories that will help you streamline your business operations and boost your growth. Let's get started on your journey to more efficient and scalable operations.
So, Beau, welcome to the podcast today.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. I really wanted to chat with you about one of the agents that we produced for ourselves and have now started using daily, I think.
Every day.
Every day. All right.
Yep.
So this agent came about because we were chatting and you simply, I'm paraphrasing, so
Yeah.
forgive me, correct me
Paraphrase
if
away.
I'm wrong.
You're
You
good.
said something like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And then you outlined what you were struggling with, which was essentially like, all right, we've got a brand new agent or solution or automation that we made for a client. You have to go through, understand how it all works, then write a bunch of documentation, communicate with our developers, or get them to do it. Then you it's this whole
Too much.
mess.
So much. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I think we can probably build that. And then you and I sat down, and under an hour, we had a working agent. But what I really want to dive into is this concept that we didn't just write a quick prompt and say, agent's done. There's this whole aspect of knowledge that you came prepared with and had from your experience of doing this already.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that in this specific situation, and to touch on probably, I think you guys have done a previous episode on, being able to have a champion internally that understands how AI functionality and agents truly work. For me, I'm sitting there every day and I'm working with our clients and I'm starting to pick out the different things that they're asking for. And because we are a dev shop, and we are creating things that someone that's not as technical, they don't truly understand it. And we're trying to find ways to be able to provide a good route to that knowledge for them. What I started to realize is, okay, all of our clients are asking these core questions. They're like, okay, well, what credentials are set up in our automation? What, webhook are we using for this workflow? What's it actually doing? Can you explain to me the reasoning of the agent? Within all of that, what you were talking about is I'm consistently having to go back and forth between the workflow and then checking in with the dev and saying, am I understanding this correctly? And yeah, it was just a lot. It was a whole lot to deal with. And I think what's important about this one in general is, and I think everybody feels this way, anybody that's client facing or they're running services and they're providing a product or an end result to their clients, we all reach this point to where we have like these levels of frustration in the process, right? We're sitting there and saying, I can't get them the info. They're asking for more info. I've given them a lot already. What packages this in a way that it makes the most sense? And that's what this conversation came out of was I've tried a lot of things. How can we make this work for everyone without me or somebody else on the team having to spend an hour going through and typing stuff out?
So I've got a question for you on this, Beau, because I've been curious about this. When we were chatting through what and how this agent would work, and I guess let's give our listeners a little bit of context. The agent actually takes in the code for the solution that
Right.
we produce, like an automated workflow, then processes that and outputs a very distinct 7-part document. And so that's the context, the question that I'm going to ask. When we were chatting and what made this work so well when we started testing this is you slacked me, hey, if it could do boom, 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 and you sent me those 7 things that you thought it would do. Did you have those prepared already, or was that literally off the top of your head?
Yeah, so I had that prepared already. I had sat down because we had one process that we were trying to work through internally to be able to create all the documentation for it. And I was like, man, what's the best way for us to give them the information that they need? And how can I refer back to questions that they were asking me previously for me to be able to give them what they need, right? And how could we apply this across everybody and what's everybody asking for? So I had those prepared, just looking back through, everything that they possibly have ever asked for in relation to a workflow. And that's what I sent through to you.
How long did that take you to when you sat down to create those 7 things?
Not long, not long at all, honestly. It was, I mean, just reflecting on conversation. That's all it was, is just
Yeah.
giving myself focus time and saying, what do I hear the most? What, what if I were in their seat, what would I want to understand that's not diving too far into the technical aspect of it? Um, and yeah, I mean, it took me maybe 10 to 15 minutes max to
Wow,
wrap
that's
my head
cool.
around it. Yeah.
What what I love about that is you had already done this so many times and you have heard similar questions, but every client asks a little different.
Yeah.
And so until you this was I'm speaking for me now, until I sit down and really start resonating and thinking about how people are asking and what it is, if I were to try to create 7 things that I would want in technical documentation off the top of my head, never speaking to a client and just guessing, there's no way it would be as good as what you put together after your experience doing it so many times.
Right. I think that especially us that are more technical and we understand what's happening underneath the hood of all these workflows that we're building, what we think they need to know is very different. I mean, you and I both see it all the time. We may get on a call and we just blast through this big explanation and people just gloss over. We're like, okay, that's not what we should have done. And so our knee jerk is to go technical and to talk about, hey, check out how cool this is. Check out how it works. It's actually doing this. And then we're doing this and we're showing the routes. But in actuality, they just want to understand from their end what matters most to them, which is how is it structured? How does it work? How do I test it? Those are the main things they want to know.
I mean, that's such a good point. Hearing you say that, it just clicked because we're calling it technical documentation. And I fall into that trap that you're talking about all
Yeah.
the time is talking about the features, talking about like all the thoughts that we put into this as a team to build this amazing scalable solution. We want to convey that. But the reality is they don't care about all of that. They just want the end result. Does it
Yeah.
work? Yes or no? Does it break? Yes or no? Things like that. And so even though we're calling this technical documentation as a name, it's not really as technical as that name might paint as a visual image in people's mind. Because, like you're saying, it is going through and identifying some high level aspects. Like, what are the sub workflows? Is maybe the most technical stuff that's
Right.
in there.
That, and I think the webhook piece, identifying, hey, these are the
True.
webhooks that are there. These are the credentials that are connected to it. But, I think because ultimately the main things that we're trying to do is just present the overview. What is it trying to do? The credentials that are connected, any webhooks or API calls or anything like that that's associated with it. And then just the how it works, like just the basics of it triggers, it then does this in this next node, and then so on. It goes to an agent, and then it does this, and it does this, and then how the user sees it. And then from there, how they can test it, and then any best practices that they should be working within. So if I'm going to go and I'm going to work with this particular agent that has been built or this workflow, here's what I need to make sure I'm doing. Be direct whenever I'm talking to the agent, or make sure that I'm doing this type of naming convention. So just giving them the best practices surrounding it. And so far, that seems to be what they need. And I think what's exciting for me, though, is one of the things that we've had to do quite a bit is we may prototype or scaffold a workflow,
Mhm.
and it starts at point A, but then by the time we fully deploy, it's much different than it was up here. But what this allows us to do is it's so easy for me, if it's me doing it, which recently it has been, I've just been going in, grabbing the JSON file of the workflow, dropping it into the agent, and then it spits it out into our Google Drive. I review it, I do any formatting changes that I need to, and then I'm able to provide that to the client and make sure that it makes sense for them from their perspective. But then we can provide it to them. But I can do that at each step of the way. And it's not an astronomical amount of time. It's taking me maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, compared 10 minutes compared to
I
how
mean,
long did it take you before how
sometimes
long?
it could be hours. It just depends on,
Mm,
because I can't, let me turn around and say the duration of time that it takes me to get from point A to point B could be hours, because if I have to drop it into click up and say, hey, Eduardo, can you explain this to me? Here's a video of me walking through it. Can you confirm everything's good? I've got to wait for Eduardo at that point for him to finish up what he's doing to be able to focus on what I'm asking him. But with this, he doesn't have to. I just grab the JSON, drop it in, and I've got my information right there. So I can do it any step of the way. Anytime there's an update made or a change is made, I generate a new document and it's done.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I look at this from two sides. One, time savings, which is amazing, right?
Mhm.
That helps you out. But also, it's a diversification of focus, or sorry, it's the consolidation of focus, I think is a better way to put it, because what previously we would have to involve you, maybe me, and at least one developer for every revision of the documentation of stuff that we built. Now, and that means we're absorbing multiple people's times. That's even more cost. The timeline gets extended. And now we're able to just, 10 minutes, create an output, and it only takes one person.
Yeah. And this is something that can grow with us, like as we continue creating this documentation, if a client comes up and they say, I don't understand what this is saying, okay, cool. That's an indicator that we just need to go in and change the system message of the agent and make that agent work better for us, But to your point, yeah, I mean, it's me and an agent now. Yeah, it's not me having to go back and say, hey, can you check this? Can you check that? It's written in a way that anyone can understand what's happening. And for everybody that is listening to this, my reference point at that time when it generates that documentation is I legitimately open that document, I look over at the workflow, and then I just bounce back and forth to make sure everything looks good and it's ready to roll. So a lot of time savings, in my opinion. Makes me feel
Yeah.
confident in giving it to them.
And I think a piece to this too that I want to touch on, which is really interesting, is when you and I sat down, like I said, we built this in less than an hour. The reason we could build it in less than an hour is because we didn't create this massive
That's a good
project
point.
for ourselves.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
great.
So you and I could have sat down and we could have mapped out this giant thing like, oh, when this happens, like every time a new workflow is saved, let's figure out how to send a webhook to this other workflow. And then that's going to find the right folder on the Google Drive or create a new one. And do we have a document? Then it's going to edit an existing document or make a new one if one doesn't exist. And then when that updates, we're going to create a new ClickUp task for Beau to review it. And then once Beau marks that complete, it's going to automatically draft and eat. Like we could have exploded this
Oh,
out.
yeah. It could have been huge. It could have been
But,
absolutely huge.
and I think this is such an important part because that would have taken months.
Yeah.
That would have created a lot of failure points. That would have created a lot of issues. That would have created a lot of headache. I wouldn't have had time for just me and you wouldn't have had time to just sit down and knock it out. So instead of all that, we go, what is it? Basically back to the MVP ideas of early SaaS, right? What's the
Yeah.
minimal viable product that we could have for this agent? Maybe we need an MVA, minimal viable agent.
There it is. MVA. TM.
And we created the MVA. It is not connected to anything else. You have to go to the agent, you copy and paste the JSON code from the workflow, you paste it into the chat, you press submit. There are some manual steps. It does its thing. And the only thing that it's outputting instead of back to the chat is it's creating a Google Doc and it's formatting that Google Doc correctly and then it gives you the link back so you know exactly where to go to it. And then you review. It's not integrated with any of the other things that I mentioned.
Nope.
But because of that, we were able to knock that out so quickly.
Absolutely. And I think this goes back to what you guys have talked about before. There needs to be someone internally on teams that knows how to do this. That could be this whole scenario could happen in any company. If there's somebody
Yes.
in that company that knows how to build this. It started just from a Slack that morning, early morning
Yep.
Slack, you and I chatting back and forth. And within that hour, it was done. And I
Yep.
was using
And we're not doing anything advanced in this. It is a single agent with a chat interface, with a single prompt, with the ability to create it's one tool to create a Google Doc, and it's one tool on the agent to format the Google Doc.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the entire thing.
Yeah.
And the magic is because of the 7 items that you already spent months working with clients and understanding and having that knowledge. Because you had that knowledge, we were able to give the agent the exact instructions that we needed to execute. And I mean, I hate to say this, but I might even argue that this is a better use case for AI to do than a human,
Yeah. I would totally agree
which
with that.
sounds weird, but a human it is so much work, and then you need to double check, and you don't have the world's knowledge of every API and documentation and all of that, whereas AI agents do. So let humans do the good stuff or the important part, which is like, is the output right?
Yeah. You can confine the output a lot in an agent too, and you can make it consistent,
Hmm.
right? I mean, that's what we're going for is consistency in what it's outputting. I know that every time I've sat down in the past and created technical documentation, I may go through and say, all right, on this one, I'm going to get super detailed. And that first one's
Mm.
the format stays the same, right? The format's still there, but depending on what mood I'm in, and whether or not I'm able to focus, if I don't have a lot of things going on, in my inbox or inside a ClickUp, my focus changes throughout the day. So if I'm focusing in, it may be different than if I'm also doing technical documentation on another project and I have those distractions. So
Yeah.
it could change it completely, right? And if I don't do a good job, then the client's asking questions and I just wasted my time, because then I'm updating at that point. But I mean, it's been super. I do want to mention though that we created it and then we like put it through the ringer. I did 40 in an
Yes, I
afternoon.
remember.
Yes, I did 40 in an afternoon. I was like, let's do this. It's up and running. Let's go for it. And truth told, when Micah and I were working through and building this to frame it, I think our back and forth was like, all right, cool, got it up and running. I just ran a test. Take a look at it. Looked at it once, and you said it's not doing something I want it to do. And we had 3 tests, and it was ready.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, I was really happy with how quickly it came together and what the output is of it.
I think that's another reason for ultra simplicity on
Mhm.
this. If we would have added all those other workflow steps in the beginning, there's no way we could have run 3 tests and been like, cool, let's throw 40 docs at it
Yep.
and see what happens. And so the whole concept with starting simple like this, and I know we have another episode on this, but it's so important to reiterate, is that because you and I started simple, you sent me that list of 7, we got a prompt in there, we tested it, we refined it a few times, then we started using it.
Mhm.
And we didn't put that into I should say, this is a mission critical aspect because this is a part of our deliverable now.
Yeah.
But we put it in our process in a way that didn't cause problems if problems were created. So if it started outputting stuff that is not immediately going to the client, Bo, you as a human are going, I'm looking at every single output document. I'm
Yeah.
not fully automating this entire workflow. And then something goes wrong. And then we have an oh shit moment. And wow, we just sent 40 documents that all talk about cats and dogs in technical documentation because there was some issue in this workflow or whatever.
I mean, I prefer me being a human that's looking at it. I think there's also the component to it of if I am client facing and I'm the one responsible for having communication with the clients on what we're building, this is the best education I can get. Like I can get
Oh,
fantastic
man.
education.
Yes.
So
Love that.
I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I have the general idea of what's going on. But now I have a place I can go to much quicker than before if they don't refer to their documentation. If
Yep.
they're not referring to it, I have it. I can go back to it, but I'm reading everything. I'm understanding the core structure of what this workflow is doing. And it's just refining everything I know about the project. And I can apply that then to future clients. And as I'm talking to future clients and I'm hearing their problems, I've already read an overview of something that was a similar problem and what we've done to solve for that. So it's just triggering in my brain, hey, we've built something like this before and it's making me better on the client services side.
Yeah. So it's almost an added benefit. We could never, I mean, imagine if we tried to do that without this automation or without this agent. We would have to have a full time developer that was literally just, hey, this is what the workflow does. I'm
Trainer.
now going to train the client facing account
Yep.
managers to understand this. And then any account manager questions would go back to this individual that would be insane.
It
It
would be.
feels insane right now because of the
It is.
technology that we have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that to me, if I feel more confident and comfortable with the client and we're not having to go through all these different channels, I mean, number one, I can let our team focus on what they're great at and they can keep burning through things in the sprint and just churning things out. And I'm not having to interrupt them to say, hey, can you tell me what this means? And, and they're just like, really, you don't know what that means? But, I think it just keeps us moving. It keeps me from feeling like I can't answer questions quickly because more than anything, I want the client to feel like they can come to me and I'm not necessarily a human on demand, but I have answers on demand. And I want to be able to do that and be able to provide them quick answers. So yeah, I mean, I want our company to look good. And if I'm able to answer quickly and confidently, man, that's great.
I love that. I think the only thing that I would add to all of this is I made a big deal earlier in this episode about how we kept this so simple. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean we can never make it complicated.
Oh yeah.
I
Let me say
think
this.
yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So let me say this because, yeah, sorry, I brought this up to the team on Monday in our sprint meeting. I was like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Mike and I worked through this. We created it. This is everything that what we have it doing. You guys know I've been asking you a lot of questions. The clients have a ton of questions." And immediately after I explained what it was doing, I showed it to them, explained what it was doing. They started talking about the very iterations and updates that you were. I think we can actually have a webhook that triggers after we've made a change and it can update the technical documentation. I mean, they started iterating on it for us. So now when we're ready and we feel like we need to do that, the team already knows what we're working with and they're going to have ideas to make it even better. So sorry to cut you off, but that's
No,
exactly.
that's exactly where I was going, man, because I think it's such a clarifying avenue to take when you go, what's the MVA? Minimal viable agent. I'm going to try to coin that now. I'm just going to keep
Love it.
repeating that. But if you start with the most simple agent or most simple workflow and deploy that,
Yeah.
you get the gains from that right away. Now, like you and I could have a discussion at any point. When it becomes painful enough, we can go, I might get another Slack from you. Hey, Micah, wouldn't it be cool if
Yeah.
the tech doc agent could do blank? But you're going to share that when the pain threshold gets too high, when that pain point gets too big. If we were to do that all up front, we could do a bunch of cool shit. But then all of a sudden, we're solving problems that don't exist. We're adding
Yeah.
complexity that is unneeded. And then I'm even thinking about what you just said, Beau. Imagine demoing that to the development team. You did that in our sprint planning meeting that I'm guessing probably took 5 or 10 minutes. If
Yeah.
we were to build this whole thing out, and then that would take the entire sprint meeting, and we wouldn't actually talk about the work that we needed to get done this week.
Right.
There's so many like extra inefficiencies and complications and things that if you solve things that sound cool or you think might be a problem, but they're not actually the core pain point yet. What we focused on was the core pain point, solve the problem, moved on. We run a business. There's so many pain points that we need to solve every day. Like, let's focus on the priority ones. One of the things I've been sharing this with a lot of people lately, and I might have said this on another episode as well, but I took a count of how many, like, it's basically a ton of little agents. It's a ton of simple MVA solutions that we have to operate our business. And it's what allows you and I to jump on podcast recordings and do this without being stressed out. It's what allows us to travel and speak in front of leadership teams without our phones blowing up with Slacks. We have 30 to 40 different micro solutions that are solving these problems. These aren't tools that are giant workflows that are taking over huge swaths of our business and we're firing all of our team members. We have the same, team. We're just now we're a lot more efficient. We can perform a lot better. We have a lot less busy work, right? Beau, you're not writing hours of technical
Yep.
docs every revision of a workflow. It's 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Yep. That's it. I mean, I think what I enjoy the most about how we have positioned agents in the business is, scaling to a point where the things as I get busier and as you get busier throughout the day, there are specific points of our job that obviously we're like, oh, I can't get to that one right now. I need to focus over here. My attention is being pulled this direction. But on those, it's instead of us going out and hiring somebody to work and do our intelligent automation briefs because Beau may not have time to do it this week, then we create an agent for that. Same
Yep.
thing for the technical documentation. Same thing for some of the podcast stuff, right? Being able to have it help us generate different components of the podcast. Instead of me having to do that or you having to do that, I can now go and tap my agent on the shoulder with the information that I'm providing to it, let it do the work while I can focus over here or prep something else while it's doing its work, and I can come back to it when it's complete. And I think it's really kind of I don't want to say eventually the goal is for everything to grow to a point to where you do have to hire somebody to do that job because you want to see that
Yep.
growth, right?
Yep.
But at this point in time, when we are scaling these different portions of our business and we're working within those, I mean, it's just the best option, the best alternative to having to hire somebody at that precise moment.
Yeah. And when we do go to hire, we're hiring for valuable skill sets, knowledge, experience,
Right.
all of those things. We're not hiring because they can copy and paste between spreadsheets
Right.
or, manually review JSON code to produce technical documentation.
Right.
We're not hiring for those jobs that, create, shouldn't say like brain dead work because there is still some skill set in there, but it's not the same, right? Like, let's hire skilled people that
Yeah.
have that domain knowledge, that have that experience. That I don't want to hire somebody that has valuable skills and have them spend 50% of their job copying and pasting between spreadsheets.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's really like you're sitting somebody down and they just have a bunch of buttons in front of them. You want them to be looking up, taking in all the information that's coming in throughout the business, and then know which button to push based off of that and then how to refine it. So they're able to use their brain for strategy and moving the needle versus just going over here and exactly like you're saying, oh, I've got to copy this cell to this cell. I've got to do this.
Mhm.
Yeah, they have a full team that can support them, a full team of agents that can support them.
Awesome.